Hey, so I have something interesting for you guys right now because it is yet more Trump flunky gaslighting on corporate media, but it's also a super important kind of critical thinking and epistemology concept. And it goes to the question of Mayo-brained Mark Meadows didn't think he was going to be instructive, but how do we know things? We do observation. We sometimes generalize. We look to authorities. We apply research methods, the scientific method. It's a very big conversation. But when we're dealing with empirical questions that you're not testing in a sort of double-blind format, we need to apply some other concepts, which we are going to discuss shortly. And this leads us to Donald Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, who went on CNN and talked about the supposed voter fraud of vote by mail that Trump is going to be pushing to suppress vote by mail this election. And Jake Tapper from CNN points out there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud when people vote by mail. And Mark Meadows says, well, there's no evidence that there isn't widespread voter fraud. Take a look at this.
Sending ballots out just based on a voter roll registration. Anytime you move, you'll change your driver's license, but you don't call up and say, hey,
no
by the way,
of widespread voter fraud, though.
But
there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud.
There's no evidence that there's not either. That's the definition of fraud, Jake. When we look at that, what we have seen are a number of mail.
So this is really instructive. Like not only does Mark Meadows' skull seem to be filled with mayonnaise here, or veganese, if that's your preference, this leads us to Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a concept which we often interpret or simplify as, if you have competing explanations for something, we should prefer the simpler explanation in the sense that it requires the fewest assumptions and fewest secondary explanations of either unknown or invisible phenomena. So I'll give you some examples. If I say that car seems to be running, I hear it running and the tachometer says 1,000 RPM, I believe the car has gasoline in it, assuming it's not an electric car, right? You could come out and say, you don't know that, David. The car could be out of gas, but you're hearing a speaker pumping out noise that sounds like an engine that's running, and the tachometer might have been manipulated to show 1,000 even when the car isn't really on. Okay, I mean, I guess that's possible, but it's implausible. And the first explanation, which is when you see a car, you hear the noise of the car running and the tachometer shows 1,000, the car probably has gas. It requires fewer assumptions, and the person suggesting the wacky hypothesis should have to provide evidence that they are right. You could say, David, you don't have proof that my theory is false, but intuitively we know that that's the person that should be proving to us that we should consider their hypothesis. Another example, if I say, look, it's an empty room. You could say, there could be an invisible tiger in here. And I'd say, well, if there was an invisible tiger in here, we would still hear the tiger. The tiger might smell. We might see the tiger moving around dust as it walks around. And you could say, no, the tiger is invisible, but it's also odorless and weightless and silent. It doesn't make any noise. And you don't have proof that that's not going on. I think you get the idea. These are indefeasible arguments. You can't defeat them because they will always say, well, you haven't proved otherwise definitively. Jake Tapper, of course, should have said, you're asserting something for which there is no evidence. So the onus is on you to prove it. Simply saying it hasn't been proven that there isn't voter fraud is not actually sufficient. Now, it gets even crazier during this interview. Here, Mark Meadows claims that despite numerous reports, no voting machines have been taken offline. But if they were taken offline, it's definitely Barack Obama's fault.
Are you saying that sorting machines have not been taken offline and removed? Are you asserting that did not happen?
I'm saying that sorting machines between now and the election will not be taken offline. Listen, I had Postal under my
the ones that have been taken offline in the last couple of months.
No, but listen, here's what I'm saying is, when you look at it, the normal process of doing all of this, Jake, I had the postal system under. I had the only bipartisan bill to actually deal with the $146 billion loss that the the Postal Service has been will see over the next 10 years. And so when you're looking at this, these postal machines and the drawdown, that was a 2006 bill that has been implemented that I don't necessarily agree with, but that's not this Postmaster General that did that. That was the previous Postmaster General under Obama.
So if you're struggling to understand that, you aren't alone. Do not adjust your brain. It's actually incoherent. Voting machines haven't been taken offline, but there was a bill under Obama to do it, but it hasn't happened this time. But it did happen, but not now. So if it's because of that bill that you see it, then blame Obama. What? Then Jake Tapper provides evidence that actually voting machines are being taken offline. And Mark Meadows says, oh, it's all normal and nothing to be alarmed about. But remember, he said minutes earlier that it wasn't happening at all.
In terms of the fact check that you asked me to look into, one of my great producers did in terms of the machines. Chris Bentley, president of the National Postal Mail Handlers Union Local 297, which covers Kansas and part of Missouri, two good Trump states, told CNN that postal management has already taken out 4 machines in Kansas City, 2 machines in Springfield, Missouri, and 1 machine in Wichita, Kansas. That is earlier this year under this new Postmaster General.
No. With all due respect, and if we look at it, I can talk to Kansas, I can talk to Tucson, Arizona. You're talking to someone who knows is when we take out those processing, they're part of a processing center that comes in, and as we start to move those out, if they were not part of an already scheduled reallocation, it's not happening. It's not a new initiative by this Postmaster General. And when we look at this, it's all about efficiency, but you have a normal system of changing it out. And so with all due respect of your fact checker, I'll be glad to come in. We can spend an hour talking about this. We'll bore people to death, but I can tell you this. The post office has been losing money for over 10 years.
Okay, so the full explanation is this isn't happening. If it is, it's Barack Obama's fault, not the current Postmaster General. But since it is happening, it's actually not happening now. Oh, well, no, but it is. But it was the previous Postmaster General whose influence is actually what's responsible here. And anyway, we should treat the post office like a business instead of the public service that it is. This is Trump's chief of staff. This is not some random congressman anymore. He was some random congressman. Now this is Donald Trump's chief of staff. We're in real trouble heading into this election. One of our sponsors today is Helix Sleep, and it's a sponsor I'm thrilled about because I sleep on a Helix mattress at home, and it's just the perfect mattress. One of the best things about Helix is you don't have to guess which mattress do I need, which one will be good for me. You take their famous sleep quiz on their website, you tell them your body type, your sleeping position, your back pain issues you might have, and they will pair you with a mattress that will be perfect for you. I took the sleep quiz. The mattress they suggested was exactly what I needed. I often get too hot at night. The mattress keeps me cool. It's not too soft. It's not too firm. The texture is right. And I've just been getting way better sleep. You only buy a mattress every decade or so. Don't get stuck with something that's not perfect for you. And all Helix mattresses come with a 10-year warranty, and they'll even come to your house and pick it up within 100 days if you don't love it. But I think you will. All of my viewers will get up to $200 off your order, and you'll get 2 super premium pillows for free when you go to the link right underneath this video.